Hi everyone, I wanted to start back to school season with a video about tricky math expressions like the one on the screen here. But first, I want to say that this is a scary time for families, teachers, and staff who are faced with deciding whether and how to go back to school in person. I'm personally very concerned that in many places we're going back before we're ready. And I'd like to see us prioritizing not only our kids' health, but also the health of our teachers, staff, and the broader community in making these decisions. Okay, let's talk about tricky math expressions. These crop up every once in a while and they often go viral because people vehemently disagree about the answer. Many of you probably seen this one. It's been circulating recently, and there are two common answers people give for what this expression equals. So let's split it apart into the red version on the left and the blue version on the right. Some people strongly feel the answer is 1, while others are certain it's 16. And I think part of what makes these so appealing is that we're used to thinking of math as really straightforward, having clear rules, and having a single right answer. So people really get invested in what they think the answer is. But first, let's make sense of where these two answers came from. If you're like the person who thinks the answer is 1, then you're probably looking at the expression as something like this, where the 8 is divided by all the stuff that comes after it. And I personally like to look at it as a fraction, but we could also rewrite it with brackets and parentheses to sort of make sense of what's going on here. If you're looking at it as the 16, you're probably thinking of it as the 8 divided by 2 and then multiplied by the stuff in parentheses. Or with just parentheses, it would look like this. All right, so what's the official answer? I'm going to be honest, I don't know. And people have shown that, for instance, if you use different types of calculators, you can get different answers. So it depends some on who you ask. Now, there may be an official mathematician's answer out there somewhere, maybe especially for people who work in areas like programming or computation or things like that in mathematics. But unless you're working in a really specific sub-area like that, trying to figure out the official answer isn't really a very useful way to think. Instead, the much more productive answer is that it's a poorly stated mathematical sentence. It's actually an expression, but to make an analogy to literature, I'm going to say sentence. And I'm going to use an example sentence that I got from Wikipedia that's also ambiguous. John saw the man on the mountain with a telescope. So I want you to just picture in your head for a minute what this sentence is communicating. Where's John? Where's the man? Where's the telescope? There are lots of interpretations. I just want to share 3 quick ones. Maybe John is up on the mountain using a telescope to see the man who's down on the ground. Or maybe John's on the ground using a telescope to see the man up on the mountain. Or maybe John's walking on the mountain and he walks by a man with a telescope who he sees. There's lots of ways we could make sense of what this sentence is trying to tell us. So if your goal is clarity, that's a bad sentence. Now in literature, there might be times where we want things to be ambiguous. Maybe it makes a text more engaging or interesting or invites debate. But most of the time in math, that's not a goal we have, especially when we're writing symbolic expressions like this one. In that case, our goal is usually clarity. So if that's our goal, then the answer should be, how can we rewrite this for greater clarity? That's a much more important question to work on than trying to figure out what the official answer might be to this expression. And we just saw 2 examples of how we can do that. Depending on what we want to communicate, we could rewrite it in one of these 2 ways, and then there won't be confusion about what we mean. So if you are working with students on order of operations, or the acronym PEMDAS is often used in the US, please emphasize that the purpose of this is clear communication. It's not just a bunch of rules to be memorized, but it's there to help us communicate clearly with each other. And so don't use ambiguous expressions like this one to trick your students, but do use them to engage or invoke discussion about clarity and how we could rewrite and make things clearer for our students. That line of thinking is a much more productive way to approach mathematics. All right, thanks a lot. Please send me your math questions about this video or anything else at mathymatfk@gmail.com, or leave a comment on this video. And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Math's not a problem with Mathy Matt.